So this is why we all come to yoga, right? Everyone just wants to get to the Savasana. So I'm gonna have a blanket close by because I know that I'm gonna want it. And I'll show you an option for the blanket in just a moment. So be mindful when you get to Shavasana in your classes and you're guiding your students that you don't just say, all right, come into Shavasana and let them go. Actually teach the pose, because this is not only a yoga pose, this is the most important yoga pose, because this is where we absorb and assimilate all of the information and feedback we get from every other pose, pranayama, meditation that we did throughout our practice. And so just sort of throwing somebody down on the floor and saying, hey, stay there, isn't as effective as getting them into really great alignment, giving them a couple of physical cues to arrange themselves, and then giving them a guide for their breath or to keep the mind occupied, or even a simple guided meditation or a mantra to stick to, at least in the beginning, as they drift off into quiet. So keep in mind that we do want to give them about 10 minutes of Shavasana every time. So there's going to be classes where you run over a little bit and you only have 6 or 7 minutes left. Don't stress about that. What I mean is really try not to teach right up until 5 minutes before, lay them down, and 2 minutes later you're pulling them back up out of it. That's not giving your people the time that they need to really gain what they need to gain from Shavasana. So start by sitting in the center of the mat, extending the feet out to the bottom edge, and then move the flesh out from underneath you before rolling down. So like I said, I'm gonna have my blanket close by because I'm fairly certain I'm going to want it. Reach the fingertips forward and roll all the way down onto the back. So just making sure that you're centered on the mat and you can extend your arms and legs without maybe your head falling off the top or your feet extending past the bottom corners of your mat. So letting your arms come by your sides, palms up, and have them slightly away from your body so that the only place you can feel your arms is where they actually connect to the body. So you'll see people that have their arms really close into their sides or out into a T. That's not as optimal of a position for the hands as just slightly away from the body. So about a 45-degree angle. And then tuck the shoulder blades underneath just slightly until you're able to find that space where the shoulders release completely. And let the feet open wide and fall how they naturally do. So if they naturally turn in slightly or out slightly, allow them to do so. And then like I said, I want my blanket because I have a fairly large bottom. And that causes, I don't know if you guys can see it, there's a big arch in my low back, which is not optimal. It's creating some compression back there. So this will happen if you have a large butt. This will also happen if you have a very tight, or if your hamstrings are very tight or your low back is very sensitive. It's all about your own personal mechanics. So just being aware of what works for you and being able to see your students' bodies and what might work for them. So as soon as I put the blanket underneath my knees, I can feel my low back move a little closer to the floor, and that big arch has been much reduced. I'm much more comfortable here. Just allowing the arms to come down by the sides, float the eyes closed. And then release control of the breath. So allowing it to move freely, but still deeply. Allow the body to be perfectly still. So resisting the urge to fidget or to answer every itch or every twitch. Seeing if you can sit through those sensations. And then allowing the mind to be quiet. So it's inevitable that thoughts will come up. But you can keep the mind somewhat quiet by attaching thought to your breath. So again, without controlling it, just noticing every inhale and every exhale. And maybe even saying those words as you breathe. Inhale. Exhale. So giving the mind this small task just to keep it a little bit occupied so it doesn't run off and run amok at every other thought that comes along. And then, of course, you can remain here for as long as you like, for as much time as you have today. And when you're ready, move on to your next lesson.